All right, look, I'm just going to level with you. I watch a lot of wrestling every single week. I just felt like we all needed a rest. Like, I know ups and downs, what's good, what's bad. I thought, why not do something a little bit different? So today, we're going to knit a kitten. That's right, I got my Knit a Kitten kit, I suppose. A fun and easy knitting kit by the Crafty Club since 1836. Let's do it. Of course, we're not gonna knit a flipping kitten, are you kidding me? Wrestling right now is more exciting than it's been in years, and I want to keep injecting it into my veins like some kind of crazy junkie. I regret saying that, it's just way too much, we need to dial it back. The point is, my name is Simon Miller, welcome to WhatCulture Wrestling, and let's indeed up those downs for the latest episode of Impact Wrestling. Was it any good, or did it absolutely suck? Let's find out. Man, I am worried about Rhyno, and I admit that's a very weird sentence to ever say. What does it even mean? But he is being blamed for all the bad stuff happening to Violent by Design recently, and on this evening, we finally pulled the trigger. For you see, it was Decay versus the Man Beast and Cody Deaner, and once again, Violent by Design had been like, look, Rhyno, you absolute piece of trash. The reason we kept getting defeated is because of you, and that is kind of true. Like, recently, they were the tag team champions, but who dropped the ball, at least from the perspective of Eric Young? It was indeed Rhyno. And the problem here is that he can't even blame fatigue, because this was a really quick match that at one point actually looked like Rhyno was going to make amends, but then he was holding Crazy Steve on the apron. Cody Deaner went to hit, they both collided together, so Steve was like, well great, now there's a huge opening. He hit his tornado DDT, and Violent by Design lost again. And honestly, even though a camera only shows so much of the frame, I was trying to look around it to see what Eric Young was going to do, because I was convinced he was going to kill him. He definitely snapped as well because he got right into Rhyno's face, but Rhyno decided, you know what, I am a veteran of this sport, and I don't have to deal with this, so they kind of got into it. But this just meant that Rhyno forgot that he was going to lose the wrestling maths numbers game, and Violent by Design not only beat him up, but they had some kind of a flag that was very handy, and they cracked it over him. So that's that. Rhyno's out. He will likely start a feud with them as well, which I bet will be fun. And as ever, Impact has just given us a nice, easy, straightforward wrestling storyline. And I thank you for that and tip my invisible cap up. We then went to Swingers Palace, and I feel a little bit better about these skits this week, because within the week I was also listening to Lance Storm, who said, you know what, I like Impact Wrestling, but I don't really understand what's going on with Johnny Swingers Casino. And if Lance Storm agrees with you, maybe you're doing something right. It does go right over my head though, and I think here he was saying, Impact's about to go to Vegas, so maybe I need to close the casino down. I don't know, it was all very weird, and it was all very confusing, and there's a lot of insider references which I did get, but kind of just like, man, I don't even know what's going on. Surely if you're going to Las Vegas too and you run a casino, business is about to boom. I just shrugged my shoulders like the emoji man. TJP was also hanging around too, because obviously he had won his bet that he had put down last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever the hell it was, because Petey Williams lost. But don't forget, the only reason Petey Williams did lose is because of the distraction, courtesy of TJP. So they challenge each other to a fight here, and we're about to get it. Before that, we also had a quick promo with Team Cage, who of course later on are going to be taking on Team Austin. I was like, man, Christian, you have done a terrible job here. Every single person in your group hates the other guy. Because you've got Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards, who are like, do not forget, we do not get on, and you have Josh Alexander and Chris Sabin, and while they're a bit more buddy-buddy, they're about to fight for the X Division title. So honestly, it's really good, Christian, that you've got some friends, but I don't really think they're going to have your back. It was then, as stated, TJP versus Petey Williams, and they just had a really good match. They're just great wrestlers, to be completely honest with you, and do not forget that Petey Williams was one of the guys that kind of modernized what we now take to be traditional professional wrestling. I mean, he was the dude that said, hey, look at this crazy maneuver I've got called the Canadian Destroyer. So if you also want to point the finger at him and go, oh, damn it, because of course that thing is now just a transition move, well, actually, no, you can't blame him. He's always used it as a finish. They started slow, but they hit the accelerator towards the end. And of course, the big thing here is that TJP was going for his Mamba Splash and Petey Williams was going for his Canadian Destroyer. But these are two vastly different moves they were just zipping around the place. It did mean we had a mad exchange because, of course, one is more aerial and one is more grounded, which is why you may be surprised to hear, wait for it, that this ended with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. Because, of course, it did. But look, sometimes it does work, and I absolutely thought it worked here, especially because Petey was going for the sharpshooter and then he was going for the destroyer, and then TJP was going for a bunch of other stuff, and he went for a cradle, so Petey was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop your momentum and I'm going to pin you. And he won. This was obviously done too to keep them kind of balanced because right afterwards Steve Macklin ran down and ruined them all, and now we're going to build to that triple threat match. So once again, Impact Wrestling planted the seeds, and here is your delicious flour. Not delicious flour. Don't eat flour. Not the, you know what I'm talking about. Gallows and Anderson promo next, and they were super duper happy that they've now put Willie Mack and Rich Swann in the hospital. They're basically dancing around going, ha ha ha. But you just knew this wasn't going to go well for them, because from nowhere, all of a sudden, Rich Swann and Willie Mack did turn up. They had a bunch of crutches, so they just started to whoop their ass. Chased them away like crazy people until they bumped into Scott D'Amore, and they were like, oh, Sky, can we have our tag team title rematch now? And he looked at them and said, you know what? You can. This was a really lovely moment. Not true, it wasn't. It was just making a match. I just felt like it would be nice to say. John Skyler was then back on Impact, and I love this because do not forget he was introduced to Impact Wrestling as just some kind of a jobber that was meant to lose to Matt Cardona, but then he beat him, and now he's got his own storyline. I could use more of this. Sadly, he did lose on BTI last week when he was taking on the Laredo Kid, so why don't they do a rematch now? Why not indeed? Up. Skyler rejected a handshake to begin with because he is a massive dick, but Laredo was like, okay, if you're going to do that, watch me fly around the ring. I have super duper lucha powers, and he really does. But then eventually, Skyler basically cut him off midair and suplexed his ass. It was pretty good. They started to strike each other because it is a wrestling match when Skyler decided, you know what, you're wearing a mask, I'm going to try and rip it off. And wrestling companies around the globe have been doing a really good job recently and letting you know that's disrespectful and you're going to throw somebody else off their game. That's kind of what happened here. Because in all the fracas, wait for it again, Skyler hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, and he held the tights to get the cheap victory. But come on now, did we really need to do this in back-to-back matches? I don't think we did. I'm not saying it's not smart, this is a great way to continue the feud, but why didn't we just do a proper finish, quote unquote, in the Petey Williams versus TJP thing? I just don't like it when you see it this much on one show. And you can say, Simon, you're such a pedantic Mother Hubbard. This will be absolutely true. But it's my show and I'm mad with power. Down. I do want to say, though, it's always nice seeing brand new faces on Impact. It just keeps it fresh. All of this was then followed by Tennille Dashwood's All About Me. I'm just going to say, I can't believe this actually airs on television because it is so nuts. And that's why I love it. It's just so awkward to the point that you actually start to feel uncomfortable. And yeah, I get it. If you're not into the joke, you're going to be like, what the hell is happening? How am I even watching this? But I think I do get the joke. And I think that Tennille Dashwood is really good at it. Even though it does kind of come across like we just threw a bunch of people in the room and went, do something. And of course, it was to continue on the feud between Tennille Dashwood, Madison Rayne, Caleb with a K, Rachel Ellering, Jordine Grace, and Taylor Wilde, with the focus being on Tennille, and she was like, man, I don't really like it in this room. It feels kind of dangerous. Maybe we should shut the whole thing down. So it's bizarre. It is so bizarre. And Wilde eventually went, look, Tennille, you've been skipping me for ages. Why don't we just have our one-on-one match? And Dash was like, yeah, I guess we could. Or maybe we couldn't. Honestly, this is the best and weirdest stuff ever. And it really is like just tuning into somebody else's dream. And again, if you're brand new to wrestling, this just must be an absolute trip. I don't know why I like it so much, but I do. It's kind of like a YouTube skit, which obviously is my bag, baby. I'm giving it up. We also found out that Matt Cardona and Rohit Raju will have a match this weekend because before the show backstage, Matt Cardona had fined Rohit and Shearer, and he had beaten him up. This led to a conversation with Scott D'Amore where he was like, look, okay, I will grant you this fight, but it's going to be no DQ so you can get your aggression out, and then would you please stop attacking people behind the scenes? Now, Matt Cardona agreed to this, but I like Scott D'Amore. Do you believe that? Have you not been watching wrestling? They do it all the flubbing time. It was then time for Trey Miguel versus Matthew Raywald, which we have been building up for a while, so I realised, oh hey, I'm quite into this. I had a good time. Ray was in charge for a lot of this too because he kept negating Trey Miguel's moves, especially this one point where he was going to go for some kind of springboard and Matty grabbed him and he just snapped his arm over the top rope. That looked pretty good. He then worked over the arm because this is professional wrestling, but he's also a bad guy. So after a while, when he thought Trey was dead, he started going to the crowd and being like, taunt, R2, or pushing the stick, whatever the hell it is these days. And that, of course, allowed Trey Miguel to get back into it. And I was like, Matthew, you fool. I mean, he basically created his own distraction, which is doubly nuts. But my word, when Trey Miguel does go, he really does go at 100 miles an hour. And I think he was going to do this split leg moonsault thing, but Rhyno caught him and gave him a powerbomb. Honestly, you should watch this match. It seemed like he was going to go for another bomb after this, of the senton kind, but you don't do that because you never want to be on the mat with Trey Miguel because he's a submission specialist. And he kind of locked in this version of the figure four, I think. I wasn't 100% sure, but it looked that way. It was too much for Wayholt and he tapped out. I think we should do more with Trey Miguel soon. He's clearly got what it takes. Because they're thick of thieves, Deonna Purrazzo, of all people, was out here almost instantly and she whammed Trey Miguel right in the balls. But of course, this just meant Mickie James was backstage like, what's happened? And she came out and these two started to brawl. And it even ended with Mickie James climbing to the top rope and diving onto everybody. So we are not playing around, all of this worked and it got you excited for Deonna Purrazzo versus Mickie James, which I believe is happening at an upcoming NWA show or maybe at Victory Road over the weekend. I got confused about that, but I betcha it's really, really good. Tasha Steelz has also lost her damn mind. We cut to the back here where she was stood with Savannah Evans and they are wearing the tag belts just because they stole them from Decay. And everyone's going, oh man, possessions is 9/10 of the law, possessions of 9/10 of the law. Is it though? Is it really? I don't think it is. They also told Decay that if they want their belts back, they're gonna have to have a match. It gets like the bank ringing you up and saying, oh yeah, we've just taken your money, and if you'd like your money, you better come down to the bank, and we're gonna have a big fight. You'd be like, why are you ringing me, bank? I don't wanna do this. Had a quick promo for Chris Bay too, who is now officially teaming with Hikuleo, who must be around about 9'8" tall, and they're gonna fight Finn Juice at Victory Road. And I bet Juice Robinson wants to do this. They tried to break his foot. And what can you do without a foot? Well, a lot actually, but you'd still rather have a foot. We then just had a really enjoyable main event because it was Team Cage taking on Team Austin. Everybody had their working boots on and it's getting it up. The real joy came in the fact that because it was Christian teaming up with Sami Callihan, Eddie Edwards, Chris Sabin and Josh Alexander to take on Ace Austin, Madman Fulton, Brian Myers, Moose and W. Morrissey, you had all the major Impact storylines crossing the streams and we worked them really well together. Ace was thrown to the wolves to begin with as the good guys proved they could be a good tag team or a multi-man team, including Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards who were working together. And I just watched that like, remember that time Sami Callihan smashed him in the head with a bat? Oh, they were the days. As soon as Austin got to the corner though, the tag klaxon sounded, meaning everybody was allowed to get in the ring. And shout out to yet another guy who tweeted me saying, Simon, I don't really watch the shows, I just check out your recaps, and I too thought the tag team klaxon was a real thing. So look, if you are a wrestling promoter watching this, please have a multi-tag team match and have a klaxon that means everybody's allowed to get in the ring and do the move. I think we should make this a real thing. This is basically like a dog whistle that only wrestlers can hear. And then we had quite a funny bit because Brian Myers was like, right, we need to slow this down. I need to use a distraction. So he grabbed Sam Beal, who's his protege, and essentially chucked him in that ring. And it did distract Sami Callihan, who then got beat up. So that was actually a really, really good human idea. Everything from this point was just great as we built to the hot tag to Christian Cage, and my word, it's so nice to see him back in an Impact Wrestling ring. It just hits you right in the tum-tum and it turns on your nostalgia gland. He was taking out his rivals like James Bond villains until he did come down to his proper opponent, Ace Austin, and once again, Austin is an absolute asshole, so he punched him right in the dick. Eddie Edwards was watching this, which also sounds really weird. So he grabbed Ace Austin and he suplexed him from the top to everybody on the outside. You could do that spot 78,000 times and I'm always going to enjoy it. The finish was smart too because it left the door open for something different down the line because basically Josh Alexander got back in there, he saw Brian Myers, he gave him that crazy pile driver thingamajig, and he pinned him. So not only did we give Josh Alexander another big win, which we should be doing, but when it comes to Christian Cage and Ace Austin, we still don't know what exactly we're gonna do. It also meant the show ended with all the good guys going, yes, we did it, I can't believe it. And if you do want to watch Victory Road tomorrow, what a great way to set it all up. So overall, Impact gets an up. Now please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Impact. Like the video, share the video and subscribe. Don't do moves like that, it's really weird. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read articles and keep up to date with news and all of that stuff. Make sure you come say hello on Twitter. And ups and downs for everything this week, pretty much. Go and watch them all. My name is Simon for WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me as always. I'll see you on the next one.